We apologize for the delay. At this time, we'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Suffolk Central Board of Education. Let the records reflect all board members are present. And the time is 8:18. Please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this will be our first student report of the new school year. So I will let our superintendent introduce our student speaker for this year.
Welcome, Mike.
Yeah. Here you go.
Okay, so this week at Suffolk High School, we have Spirit Week. Monday was Pajama Day. Tuesday was College Carol Day. Yeah. Oh, tomorrow's Wednesday, so tomorrow is Jersey Day. Thursday is Suffolk Apparel Day, and Friday is your Spirit Color Day. On this Friday, we're gonna have the homecoming game for football against Ossining. On the 21st is gonna be the homecoming dance. The 18th, there's a senior parent night at the high school. There's gonna be a guidance assembly. And then on the 23rd, there's gonna be a PTA meeting at 7 p.m.
Nice, thank you. One point 1.08 minutes of the regular meeting of September 3rd. Do I have a motion? Mr. Cairns, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Shapiro? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Acting Superintendent comments.
I'm going to cede my opening comments to have John Palma, our Director of Facilities, introduce our speakers tonight.
So we're going to talk about solar. And I want to thank the Board of Ed for allowing us this opportunity to discuss in further detail the options available to the district in regard to solar. We were fortunate enough this evening to have two gentlemen represented by Clark Patterson Lee. Chris Coley was a principal architect with the company and happened to be with our district for about the last 20 years. We've been using them. And Jeff Teeter, who's the electrical engineer. And recently, who's been in charge of most of the electrical designs for our district projects. Between both of them, they probably have more experience with SCSD and state education departments, requirements and the potential solar projects related to schools than your normal sales consultants. The key points that they will be addressing tonight will include solar panels, roof installations versus ground methods, decreasing energy demands through LED lighting, efficiency ratings of solar panels, SCSD and the K-Solar program, building aid, and basically what are the financing options available to the district, such as PPAs, which are power purchasing agreements, and or EPCs, energy performance contracts, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. But more importantly, giving the board and the public a wealth of knowledge and additional information regarding solar in the schools in order to make a well-versed decision. So I'd like to introduce these two gentlemen, Chris and Jeff, so they can provide us with their presentation, and then we can open up the floor for some questions and answers.
Thanks, John.
We'll be right there.
That'd be great. I'll feel in control that way. Thank you. So good evening. As John mentioned, my name is Chris Colby. I'm an architect with CPL. I have Jeff Teeter with me here this evening. As John mentioned, an electrical engineer with our firm. So what I want to do tonight, as John kind of already laid out for you, is outline some basics of some different components that you're going to see as part of your options with solar panels. They're going to range from, we're going to talk a little bit about roofing, we're going to talk about lighting a little bit, and you'll see how these all kind of are key components that come together. And really it's just about energy efficiency and savings within the district and how you can achieve that. And there's a few different methods in terms of procuring solar panels, whether that's through EPC or a power purchase agreement that we'll discuss and get into some of those particulars. I'm going to start with roofing, and then we'll have Jeff speak about lighting and solar panels themselves. The reason we're going to focus a little bit here on roofing is because roofing is essentially the base where you're going to be looking at putting your solar panels. There are ground-mounted systems, but if you think about the scale and the size of many of your roof systems within the district, we need almost an equivalent amount of space on the ground. So then you start to look at, well, where does that go? And as you probably heard of going to the district, there's not enough spaces to put ground-mounted systems, and they also come with other advantages and disadvantages. So right now within the district, I believe the board has recently done a walkthrough at the high school, and you've seen some of the roofing work that has been done, some of the white roofing compared to the black roofing that's up there. The black roofing is your existing rubber roofing system. The white roofing in many places that we've put in is roofing restoration or liquid-applied roofing that has a 20-plus year warranty on it. A lot of that has been done on the high school. We're phasing that in, and that's the concept that we're looking at moving throughout the district as the roofs age. Many of the roofs that you have currently are not in warranty, but they're not in danger of failing. John continues to look at them annually, or even more often. Doesn't require maintenance on them, so you don't have major problems with your current roofing system. Just because they're not in warranty doesn't mean that they're falling apart or there's anything wrong with them. And that's part of us phasing in, fixing them, and doing what we call roof restoration. Of course, hitting the oldest ones first. The advantage of doing a roof restoration as opposed to completely ripping everything off is it costs a lot less, 40 to 50+% less than ripping off and putting in a new roofing system. The system that we're using is what I would consider one of the best on the market, and John would probably echo that comment. There's many advantages to this system, including recoating very easily, upwards of 40-year warranty if you wanted to go to that level. The system that we're using is currently aided by SCSD, so your current aid ratio is about 47%. So that means you get, for every dollar you spend on a roof, SCSD gets 47 cents back towards the cost of the project. A couple disadvantages, whether it's this roof system or any roof system, they still cost a lot of money to repair or restore, so they have to be phased over time unless you're going to put a large amount of capital into doing them all at once, which we want to recommend because then in the future you're going to have a large amount of capital in the future to hit them all at the same time. So phasing roofs has a lot of advantages. The big disadvantage though is extending time. In order for us to do a roof restoration, we have to have dry roofs. So that's why John's been very diligent in making sure if there's a leak anywhere, it's repaired quickly. We periodically have been doing roof scans to make sure that infrared roof scans to make sure the insulation stays dry. So it's almost protecting the asset that you have in place until we get to that phase where we're actually doing the restoration. So just to give you a quick example, this is the high school. The areas that you see in this kind of yellow color have been completed already. They've been recoated. They have 20-year warranties on them. They're done, they're ready to go, and they'll be in service until that 20-year warranty is up, and then they can be cleaned and recoated. So at the end of that warranty, the only thing you have to do is just wash it off, recoat it. You don't have to rip anything off. So it's a very, very easy, re-roofing method, if you will. Currently, we're in what I would call the third phase of the roofing at the high school. Where we're doing the area of the library and just behind it, the courtyard. That's in design right now. And then the next roofing area after that would be phase 4, which is by the weight room. When those phases are done, I'd say you're close to 50% of this building being re-roofed with 20-year warranty. So that's important because those areas would be viable for solar panel installation. 20-year systems, very close to how long most solar panel installations are going to go, whether it's a power purchase agreement or an performance contract. So I'm going to have Jeff talk a little bit about lighting and some of the things that he's been working on with John and London Rockland. Again, these things all at some point come together. Increasing the efficiency or reducing the load of electrical usage within the building is also part of this. The more we can reduce the load that you currently have, the less solar panels that you potentially need, making your paybacks and the mechanics of this start to match up and look a little more attractive.
That's John. I'm Jeff Teeter, electrical engineer with CPL. I've worked with John for a little while now on a few projects going on in the district. So we currently had kind of like an EPC type thing, go through and figure out all the fixtures that are in the district, basically fluorescent fixtures that need to be replaced. Some are newer, some are older. But we kind of go with LED fixtures now. The way to go, you save energy, they're easier to replace, there's no maintenance costs. So the district currently has around 8,700 fixtures to be replaced. Some John has already staffed, have already replaced around 1,000, so we're still around 7,000. With that comes to get rid of all your, basically to reduce your KWH. So you're talking about 40% savings KWH over what you pay now for electric. Again, with that is 40% savings in cost for electric bills. We currently pay around 13 cents kilowatt hour, so the reduction in that is equal to paying around 7 cents a kilowatt hour, which is a lot. It's a lot of savings. There's also rebates that one Rockland uses for fixtures that are around average. You're paying $40. It's a $30 rebate. No, it's a $30 rebate. So fixtures you're paying $40. It's quite a reduction in cost from industry standard. There's almost no maintenance with these. You put them in, they last 10, 15 years. They're easy to replace. There's no pulling out ballast, pulling out fixtures, pulling things down. Those are some of the advantages. Disadvantages, it's just upfront costs. You have to buy everything. You're paying for everything upfront. You're paying for labor. If you do, like John said, over time, it's still a phase type approach. So it's still going to take a few years to get through all of that. But in the end, the savings, I think, is almost instantaneous when you start talking about power reduction for your electrical bills. Into PV panels. So in general, PV panels, there's a useful life around 20 to 25 years. Some are a little longer, but you start getting reduction in they degrade a little bit, they delaminate, they start to come apart, you get some issues. Efficiency is only industry standard 15 to 20%. They don't get much higher than that currently. They're in the works to try to get them a little better. They see it most on some of the better higher end solar panels around 33%. They still all degrade annually at the same rate, usually around 0.8%. You can go roof mounted, so you talk about doing all new roofs, so you kind of have a good base to set these on. the contractors are usually, who do this, aren't usually concerned with structural loads. You know, they're just coming in and putting, you got a new roof, we're putting some solar panels on. We load these things up with metal and, you know, all kinds of power panels, and you set these heavy things on there. And then in turn, you're talking snow loads and all that, so it's kind of a heavy load on the structural. And then you've got to also go around all the existing conditions, so if you have any skylights or any rooftop equipment, you kind of losing some of that square footage of how you put these things up there. You're kind of losing some area for roof mounted. Ground mounted system, again, you've got huge amounts of land you have to put this on. Like Chris said, equal to what your roofing is, so you're putting these all in fields, and then you're talking power to get out to these and back and forth, so it's not as efficient as a roof mounted system would be. Maintenance around, you gotta mow, you gotta do all that other stuff. And they're definitely subject to more potential damage if you're into a mower, or people come around and, you know, they're easy to get at if they wanna mess with them, so. I think that's it. Yep.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
I just want to back up here. So, we're talking about PV panels, some that Jeff mentioned loading on the roof. This is something that SCD would make us take a look at. So in most cases, it's not a tremendous roof load, but it still has to be evaluated before the system is building, so it's very, very common. So there's a couple ways that you can look at procuring, per se, solar panels, and even doing the lighting. We're not invested in one avenue or another, so that, again, this is to be informative, to give you information, and then have, you know, a Q&A at the end. More or less, we're looking to give you as much information as possible tonight, and then have you turn around and say, all right, this is the path we want to explore, because a lot of this is going to require some further study to make sure that everything makes sense in terms of sizing of the system, the payback of the system, and how that's going to marry with phasing of the roofs and some of the other lighting initiatives that John's working on. So it's more or less what does the board feel after hearing this information would be the next path for us to explore and then, you know, move forward. So the first one I want to talk about is energy performance contracts, are commonly referred to as EPCs. It's a very simple concept. It's much like Jeff just talked about with your lighting. Replace equipment or add solar panels to offset your energy usage, and use those paybacks or the reduced energy costs to cover the cost of the solar panels or the equipment. So in the case of the lighting, you're putting in more efficient lighting, and that lighting is paid for by the savings in the reduced energy consumption. There's a couple advantages, disadvantages to each of these. So for an energy performance contract, you don't have to go out for a referendum, you don't have to ask voters for it. However, if you do go out for a vote and it is approved, SCD offers 10% incentive aid for that. There's no capital expenditure, so there's no money out of pocket for an energy performance contract, whether that's, you know, a combination of solar panels and lighting and other, you know, energy saving methods. Again, it's paid for through the energy savings. And it can be a district-wide approach, so you can do it building by building, or you can do it throughout the entire district, which is more common. A few disadvantages, or some things to look out for. If John is moving at a fairly fast clip, replacing these lighting throughout the district, lighting is a very low-hanging fruit. So that's one of the first things that is commonly done as part of an EPC, because it's easy reduction of energy consumption. So if you're going through and you're doing that, you kind of also potentially shoot yourself in the foot to do an EPC throughout the entire district, because you're kind of doing one in-house already. And there's just a few other things. It's fairly common. You know, once, as you're probably aware, when you go out to bid with any public projects, you have a little bit of, you lose a little bit of control over exactly what you're getting. And, you know, when you're doing an EPC, contractors kind of get a little bit of say in what they get to put in for equipment. So you might not get exactly what you want. It's the, you know, part of the bidding laws. And then there's also, along with that, is the district's experience in the past, if you don't maintain and work to the letter of the law, let's find out in that EPC in terms of maintenance and controls and whatnot, well then you might void that EPC, and then, you know, if the payback's not there, then the contractor would have to make up the cost differential. So just a few things to keep in mind. Another one that's pretty common and that's done throughout the state is a K-Solar program, which you may have heard of. K-Solar program is essentially a specific program authorized by SCSD, NYSERDA, that is it's just a power purchase agreement. It's basically a pre-approved power purchase agreement by SCSD. They have several contractors that are already approved. The system is kind of like a plug-and-play system, if you will, in terms of the rules and the contracts and the contractors and how it should work. Again, the intent's very similar. Produce more electricity than you're using by putting in the solar panel systems. And you're selling, you're purchasing that power from the roof panels themselves. You would purchase additional electricity as needed off the grid. Most likely you're not gonna produce in the current state all of the electricity through the solar panels, unless you reduce your electrical consumption. There is an 18-year payback required by SCSD, so when you look at the math on the contract and how much electricity is produced and what you're saving, that has to happen over 18 years. So that's the contract, those are the requirements set forth by SCSD. Again, very similar to an EPC, no out-of-pocket cost. You can pay a reduced electrical rate depending on how the numbers work out. There's variables in there. It's not a traditional bidding and design process per se as you're normally used to. Again, SCSD's kind of got this plug-and-play system that's somewhat ready to go. And then, like anything else, there's also disadvantages. So it's not an eatable, probably one of the bigger things here, it's not eatable by SCSD. You're not technically purchasing the system, you're not outlaying any cash, therefore they're not gonna aid any portion of that project. Often you're responsible for cleaning, so if the panels aren't clean, they do not produce, they're not as efficient, they do get dirty. Depending, the K-Solar program is pretty good, it does require the contractors to do certain typical maintenance on it. Site-specific for each school. Typically, there's no buyback provision for excess electricity generated that's sold back by the PPA. And then you're looking at an 18 to 20 year use life of the system, which again would match up with the roof, so there's some advantages there. A lot of this is repetitive. You could buy your own, if you so choose, you could buy your own system. So then a lot of that stuff goes away. You would potentially receive aid from SCSD, but then you're responsible for everything. There's probably good and bad in all of that, but it's not a very common method because you're outlaying a significant amount of cash. You would have to make sure that your roofs are, you know, up to par, which would also require a cash outlay. So most likely not the most financial advantageous pathway to go, but it is an option. At one point, the district did ask us to have a third-party consultant look at some proposals that were previously sent to the district. It was a straight PPA agreement. A few things that came out of that were that there was a few things that needed to be clarified. So when I talk about variables and all this, there's variables in kilowatt costs that have to be verified, maintenance costs. The particular PPA we saw did not have an 18-year payback. It wasn't clear if it was a K-Solar or just a straight power purchase agreement. Some of the utility rates that were assumed in there were not correct. Currently you're paying 13 cents a kilowatt hour. That's been that way for 10 years. And it hasn't increased, doesn't mean it won't. So there's a few things that study identified that were in conflict with the PPA, and I think, you know, one of the things we want to recommend as part of this process, and I'll go over this in the conclusion real quick, is You have these options available to you. Power purchase agreement, K Solar, essentially the same thing, EPC, or the fourth option, buy your own system. You want to make sure you're not doing an apples to oranges comparison. Like I said, there's a lot of variables with the cost of the system. One of the PPA agreements or proposals that we saw included the cost of roofing in it, which was also wrapped up into the kilowatt hour increase year over year. So you're financing your roofs within the cost of, paying for electricity, but it wasn't able. So there's a few things that, if you're gonna look at, depending on what path you choose, you wanna make sure that you're looking at everything on a level playing field. That you're getting a real true apples to apples comparison of these different, whether it's a PPA or a K Solar, which the great thing about K Solar is the state has already kind of set a template of how it should be bid, how you should look at it. Again, you have this internal EPC, I'll call it, of the LED lighting that you have to take into consideration. If you continue with that, which is not a bad thing, it's gonna reduce your electrical consumption over a period of time, depending on how quickly that can be implemented, which then allows you to reduce the size of your solar system, which gets you closer to a balance of, potentially not having to buy, electricity from the grid. So the two of them married together, reducing your consumption by going to LEDs and then putting in a solar system is good. Where's the balance and how do they match up with the roofs? Other things to consider, environmental impacts, the roofing. Part of the thing that's great about the roofing system that we're using now is we're not ripping off all your existing roofing, old insulation, throwing it in a landfill. That's all staying in place. So you look at that compared or coupled with the lighting program that's saving electricity and then the solar panels, it's really a balance of all three of those that makes this potentially a good situation. And then the last thing is just, what makes sense for you. Everybody's going to be different. Every district's going to be different. Every building's different. The amount of land and roof area you have available, where you're at with your roofing system. So you have to really take a step back and see what makes sense financially and logistically for the district. So, with that, I'll take questions, please.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, thank you.
Questions? Answers?
Chris, quick question. Basically, you've laid out various choices and so forth with regard to panels. Have you come across any of the companies that will put in solar panels and basically take off the roof or do the repairs underneath as part of the program and not paying for it at that point?
So, you mean having the solar installer do the roofing?
Correct.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Why is that?
Well, I think depending on the procurement method, you're not gonna get aid on it. So if it's wrapped up into, at least that one proposal we saw was wrapped into the cost of the power purchase agreement. That means if you just take $1 million of roofing, for an example, you would lose about $470,000 in aid for every $1 million of roofing. Also, the cost of that roofing is you're paying interest on it every year over the term of 20 years, 18 to 20 years. So $1 million in roofing becomes very expensive, financed over that term. And then I think you start to run into what kind of roofing system is it? Is it matching up with what you have? Is it the same system? Is it a different system? How's the warranty? Who's providing the roofing at that point? Is it a subcontractor to the solar installer? Now you're further removed away from the quality of that roofing. So I think you start to run into some logistical and warranty issues there, as well as some financial issues. The other part of that too is one proposal that I saw showed an option for $2 million worth of roofing and $4 million. That wouldn't even begin to touch the magnitude of roofing throughout the district. You need closer to like 10+ million to do all the roofs before, if this was all done at one time, $10 to $11 million. And that's using the system that we're using, which is about half the cost of ripping the entire roof system off. So I don't think you'd want to finance that, plus lose $4.7 million in aid. So I would probably keep them separate. That's what I'm trying to say for those reasons.
Basically, would you said really with the lighting as one of the most important low-hanging fruit, would you say that the district really should do the entire lighting program first and then go into looking at solar panels after that, or?
It doesn't have to be done first, but I mean, the more you can expedite that lighting, you're gonna benefit from it. It's a very diligent and responsible thing to do. That can continue to happen while you're installing a PV system. I think you just wanna take into account how much savings that's gonna bring you, so you're not, 5 years down the road realizing that your system, your PV system's too big, because you're not gonna be able to sell the excess electricity back. You wanna make sure that, okay, in 3 years, we're gonna have all our lighting fixed. Now our electrical usage has dropped. What is the appropriate size solar system?
So you're basically saying the district really should go into a plan, okay, in terms of what they want to do for a 5-year period, looking towards the future of really more solar panels coming in.
Yeah, I think, if you had to look 5 years out, that's a good, future projection. And, okay, where are we gonna be at with our lighting in 5 years? Where are we gonna be at with our roofing? Do you focus on one building first, so you can get solar panels in there first, and move to the next building? Is it phased that way? There's a couple ways you can phase it. I think you gotta balance all three. Continue with the lighting, continue with the roofing, and then you can start that solar.
On the K-Solar program, you said that one of the disadvantages is the district is responsible to ensure panels are kept clean, structure-free, maintenance costs. What's normally, if you put in the solar panels and everything, what is that average maintenance cost to the district?
Typically, under the K-Solar program, basic maintenance costs are covered by the contract. So you're not gonna have to go out and fix inverters and things like that. If there's something wrong with a panel, that's gotta be replaced. This is more of a cleaning.
Right.
So that depends on weather, how often.
Ballpark figure of, maintenance per
I think
year?
you're gonna wanna be cleaning them annually at minimum. So that's gonna be somebody that have to hire or do in-house, depends on the size of the system. I would be totally guessing at a good number. Not cheap. Unless you did it in-house, but then you're reallocating, internal resources.
There's some companies that basically they're buying property upstate, Catskills and Adirondacks, putting in solar panel farms in a sense,
Yeah.
and then people can buy, or businesses are buying that and bringing it back to their own districts. Are you familiar with any school districts doing that? What was the last school system that you worked for that put in solar panels?
So we've done a bunch of solar, we haven't done any here in the Hudson Valley recently. We've done some out in the western part of the state. We do them, our firm has offices all up and down the East Coast. We do a lot down south. Different programs, not exactly an apples to apples comparison. I think what you're looking at upstate is the community solar program. It's not the K-Solar program. We have worked on one upstate that was a ground-mounted system for a district. The land was donated by an adjacent farmer, and that was done via a community solar agreement, not K-Solar. So there's different legalities with that.
What is the outlay, you were saying with the LED lights, where you said there's like 8,000 fixtures we gotta fix, and we already did 1,000, but what have we spent already, and what's the further outlay?
No, we do them throughout the year. And so what happens is, instead of going in and replacing the ballast, instead of going in and replacing lamps, by the time it takes you to replace that ballast and replace that lamp, you can get a fixture and just swap out the fixture. So labor-wise, it's probably even. If not, you're probably getting a little bit more benefit out of swapping out the fixture and putting an LED fixture in. The nice part about it is, right now Orange and Rockland is giving us a per dollar rebate per fixture, which is about $30 per fixture. So they made an agreement where we buy off a state contract, and the way that we're buying them right now is Granger. So Granger has an agreement with Orange and Rockland. We buy the fixture from Granger, about, I want to say maybe 70 to 80 bucks. And then the rebate automatically goes into Granger, which then comes back to us. So we get credited for that $30 from Grainger. So we pay out and we get that credit back. So they already took care of that paperwork between Grainger and Washington. So as of right now, I would say probably over the last 2 to 3 years, I want to say somewhere maybe $20,000, $30,000, something like that in fixtures, hit and miss, maybe a little bit more.
And that's about it, we're about a for the way there.
Yeah, that's like I said, maybe 10% were there, maybe 11%, something like that. What our intention is if something goes out and it's now, like the lamps go out and the valves go out, instead of replacing the filters and valves, we'll throw an LED fixture in. It just makes more sense, instead of spending the extra money for the lamps, instead of spending the extra money for the valves. And honestly, between the lamp and the valves, it probably equals the cost of the fixture anyway. Labor-wise, it's pretty good. So, and it's kind of a win-win situation, because upfront cost, that's where you're saving as far as the cost of the valves to the lamp, and then you've got the cost of the fixture, and of course the cost of the labor. It's pretty much even. The difference is each fluorescent fixture is about 120 watts. LED is about 36 watts. So you're decreasing probably about a third of the power used per LED fixture. And you're getting the same amount of lumens out of it. You get the same kind of light. So that's been our kind of approach. The last thing we want to do is like say, hey, we're not going to do anything here until we find out where we want to go. I already had an idea, and we spoke with Chris and Jeff, and says, well, before we get an answer or a direction where we're going to go, we have to go. It's there already, so let's just do it. And let's just start saving them. And that's exactly what we're doing.
So it would be beneficial for the district then to expedite putting in LED lighting?
You could, definitely. I mean, you can.
Yeah, so one of the ways to do that would be an EPC, so an energy performance contract, just that we would write the specifications, say replace all the lighting throughout the district. And as part of that, you put in some solar panels. It might be smaller systems, not to the magnitude of the PPA or K-Solar, because again, SCD is looking at what is the payback on there, and it has to meet the financial requirements. But it would be a way to expedite the lighting swap.
Your company does that?
We do.
And how much, has anybody looked at the Orange and Rockland bills to see how much in dollars and cents it actually saves for those lamps and lights?
Right now, I didn't specifically look at what it was this year, but I know that over the course of 10 years, we were at $600,000 to $700,000 in the range in electrical costs. And you can see where the usage has decreased along with the number for the cost of the electric. But you got to understand too, it's kind of like a catch-22. We're putting LEDs in, which of course is decreasing, but now we're adding air conditioning. So when we add air conditioning into AC, we'll bring it back up again. So you're trying to balance that out in a very...
It's not in a vacuum.
Exactly. 100%. So at least you're trying to gain some savings out of that, use that savings to offset the cost of the fixtures, use the savings to offset the cost of the ACs and HVAC equipment. But yeah, as far as doing them all at one time, there's always that potential of doing an EPC. The nice part about that is, even if you're doing the EPC, it's LED lighting. The technology in 18 years for LED lighting, because your payback's going to be 18 years. LED lighting is probably at the pinnacle of this technology. It's going to get a little bit better, progressively get better. But there's a big difference between fluorescent and ballast being paid back over 18 years versus LEDs being paid back over 18 years. So the technology is there, it's already been developed, and there probably won't be too much of a change in LED as the years go on, where you won't offset that cost of the gain savings.
The other question I had is if we do put these solar panels on the roof, you know, presumably they're gonna have to put brackets to hold it, there's gonna be damage to the roof. And if we find out this doesn't work for us, and when we take this stuff out, who fixes that? What's, you know, I know that it's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know,
know, sort of out there to try to figure out the cost of it. But that would be on the school district or on the people now that put it up there?
Typically,
Because we don't own the stuff that they're putting up.
right. If the case solar has some provision for damage, but again, I would highly stress the roofing system that we're putting in is liquid applied stuff.
Yeah.
It's very
It's
tough.
cheaper. I saw that, I went on the tour, and John
Yeah.
showed us, it's
Well,
amazing stuff.
and it's much more conducive to the abuse that you're gonna get from the stanchions from the power panel system. You know, they're typically balanced, they're not drilling through, but it doesn't, buildings move, the panels are gonna move, they're gonna rub against the roof system. The advantage of having this liquid apply stuff is very, very tough. You ever seen like the stuff you spray in the trunk bed? It's very, rugged like that. Or the rubber roofs, they're gonna take so much friction, they're gonna rip the timber. So the advantage of having a better roof system on there and you put solar panels on is you're gonna minimize the amount of damage. This stuff is very easy to repair, you just knock off some more roofing and you're gonna, where it's a rubber roof, you're cutting it out, trying to patch it in, now you have to patch it.
Idealistically, you want to utilize what's available now, which is energy consumer solar panels. We know that the technology is becoming more prevalent in solar panel construction. So whereas we're at 20% by best case scenario for efficiency, 4 or 5 years down the line, we could be at 40 to 50% efficient, which of course then yeah, it uses the size of the real estate that you need working on. Good.
Anybody in the audience have a question? I've got one question. When you were talking about the PV panels, could you just maybe just give a little more detail about the efficiency being only 15 to 20% and the degradation of the performance year over year?
Sure.
Just elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think Jeff was talking about that, I'll give my 2 cents.
Whoever's more comfortable.
Yeah, so essentially, you get a panel, it starts out, it's called 20 to 25% efficient, so meaning 25% of the light that hits it is converted into electricity. What happens over time, the way the materials are being, it's almost like UV degradation. You think about anything that the sun hits over time, it starts to break down. It's essentially what's happening with the panel. And every year, you lose a little bit of efficiency, so maybe year 2, you're at 24.3%, year 3, you're at 23.7%. It depends on a lot of factors, but a little bit every year is lost through the degradation of the panel, so it just becomes weaker over time.
What if a panel completely breaks down? Do they replace the panel?
Yeah, so that'd be part of the warranty of the system, yeah. And that happens, panels break for various reasons, manufacturing, whatever. Any sort of manufacturing deficiency or issue with the panel would be covered under the warranty.
And then one last question. I'm fairly certain the answer to this is going to be no. But so we have the new roofs that we're putting up, right? Putting up any panels in no way negates any part of our warranty on those roofs, does it?
No.
Okay.
There's with the company we've been using, that actually, again, they're one of the better roofing companies out there, that this sort of thing doesn't bother them, so they're gonna come out and do the inspection, they're gonna be there during the installation, make sure everything is, cohesive.
Okay, and then, 7 or 8 years down the line, panels are up there, one of them breaks and, damages the roof, that roof's still completely under warranty. The fact that it was damaged by one of these panels doesn't matter at all.
It's gonna be under warranty, but I think there's gonna be a chargeback to the, EV system.
Yeah, I think that's where it's actually,
Okay, but that's not on the district.
That's why the roofing guy's there for the.
That's right.
Just clarifying.
So really, we don't need an answer tonight, but we're hoping that you guys have better idea of how some of these programs and systems work and how they're all gonna meld together, and, you know, discuss it amongst yourselves, get back to John, so we can, you know, I'm sure you're gonna have more questions and want more information in a certain path, and what that might look like, and then we come away with phasing out, cost analysis, and all that sort of stuff.
Anybody in the audience have a question for them?
Yeah, you talked about the predation and that. I've noticed over the years a change in the panels. When they were very thick, very big, very heavy. And the newer ones I see going on seem lighter, smaller, thinner. And I'm wondering, is the durability there? Are they better? How will the weight of these panels impact the roof?
So that's something that the state requires us to look at, is the weight of the system on the roof. You know, the roofs were designed at 40, 50, 60 years ago, and they weren't designed to carry these, you know, panels. So we have to have a structural engineer look at the wing loading, the dead load of the systems. In most cases, the roof system, the structural system can take it, but in some cases it can't and it has to be reinforced. So that's part of looking at all of this. But you're right, they have gotten thinner, it's just as the technology advances, they're gonna become thinner, more efficient, more durable. Kind of like a computer chip, you know, they get smaller and faster.
Anyone else?
As the panel becomes less efficient, do they replace the less efficient panels with better ones, more efficient ones?
No, depending on the way the agreement's laid out, the panel you get in the beginning is the panel you stick with. They're not gonna come if, the panel gets introduced to the market and is suddenly 40, 50, 60% efficient, you're not gonna get a free upgrade essentially of the panel.
Could you get the difference?
Sure.
If you wanted to, sure, you can pay for anything, yeah. America.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Palmer, for
Right.
bringing in.
Thank you.
ideas.
Okay, we will move on to public participation for action items only. This would be public participation for action items only.
Let's talk about the solar panels.
Okay, that would be in the second public participation session. This would be for the items that we're voting on under action items. Or do you have a question for the firm?
Well, essentially, the K-SOL program also has an educational aspect to it, which
Okay.
they
Then-
didn't mention.
If it's not, if you don't have a question for the firm, we'll let them leave, and then I'll ask that you just hold your comments until the latter public participation session, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Valenti, I am a resident of the district. I really just wanted to talk a little bit about the administrative hiring committee. I do realize that I myself and some of the other members of the community have probably been to a lot more school board meetings than some of you, so we may know some of the history of the district that you don't. So I just wanted to share that tonight. So the school boards involved in the hiring process is actually nothing new. It actually was not a committee. The former board, not the most previous board, but other boards, felt it was part of their responsibility before making a decision on a hire. So being a part of that process was something that was fairly natural, and really more for the district level positions. So I guess I just wanted to say here tonight that it's not really something that's being added, it's something that's being brought back. And I think that's, something just to learn for tonight. The other thing I wanted to mention too is, so I personally have been recruiting for 20 years, so I can honestly say that whenever you add more independent views to the hiring process, it does help to avoid nepotism and bias in the process, which I would assume everybody wants to avoid. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I thought you were gonna speak
Oh,
for
no.
a minute.
Sorry.
All right, we'll close this portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to action items. There are 6 action items here. Does anybody have anything they would like to pull? Anybody?
I'm just, it just says administrative hiring committee, I'm assuming that means that we're voting to have the administrative.
We are voting to have it, and there is the resolution that was on board doc, which kind of explained. Okay. Mr. Donnelly, did you want to?
Yeah, I was gonna pull, the hiring committee, 2.06.
You want to pull 2.06? Okay. So then we'll use a consent agenda for 2.01 through 2.05.
You put the agenda out?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'll wait to call a motion. All right, so consent agenda for 2.01 through 2.05. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Mr. McKenzie? Second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. 2.06. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Mr. McKenzie? There's second? Ms. Reamer? Discussion.
Thank you. As I previously stated in my opinion a couple of weeks ago, everybody can hear me, I'm sure, but I just don't feel it's necessary for the board to be involved in the hiring process. In fact, as I looked at the memo today, it expanded. Originally, last year when we discussed this, it was only for the superintendent or the higher administrative positions in the district. Now I see we're looking at principals and assistant principals. Again, I saw that in the memo.
So this is the resolution that's on Word doc, that's under here. This is the description of the hiring committee. I will read it so that everybody's aware of what they're voting on. That the Board of Education approve a board committee of the whole for the purpose of meeting final candidates for high-level district administrative positions, such as assistant superintendents, certified directors, and middle and high school principals.
Correct. And again, I just feel that there's a process that we've had in place. I think it's worked in the past, and I just don't see the need for the board to be involved any further in this process.
Thank you. Are there other comments or discussion?
There was a time when I was 100% against this, but the way this is worded, it's basically saying that we are going to meet the final candidate or candidates for a district administrative position, such as an ASI, or a certified director, or either the middle school or the high school principal. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with that. It's, It's not like we're gonna be peppering the person with questions. We're there to meet the finalists. And I think that's a good thing for us to maybe get to know. Being involved in the past, when I was younger, with people and their resumes and everything, I mean, everyone shows you the resume. My first question was always, tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. And that gave me the opportunity to actually get to know the person as a person. Everyone tells us what they have, their certification and everything else, but I want to know what that person is like, how the person's going to fit in. So, like I said, in the past, I was against this. But the way this is worded, I'm not against it, because we're meeting the person. Once again, the person is going to be, it's going to be one person that the superintendent or the acting superintendent is going to recommend to us, and then we're going to make a decision, the board votes, and it could be 7-0, could be 4-3, or we may say, no, that person is not going to be the person that we want. So I'm now leaning in favor of this.
As Ms. Valenti said, this has been something that has been in place before. I think that it's not, like she said, it's nothing new, it's something that's being brought back. Something that's, I think, essential. You want to know the people that you're going to be voting on. I would want to know the people that I'm voting on. I want to be able to ask them about their family and what their intentions are and where they're coming from. I think that those were valid questions. And I just personally feel more comfortable meeting somebody in person. And I think if you're looking at somebody on a piece of paper, it doesn't tell the whole story. You want to see who they are.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. Then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
Nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay. Ms. Dallo?
Okay, so the impetus for this information item came out of 2 meetings ago. Can you hear me? I don't have my really good mom of 6 voice going on right now, I guess. So again, the impetus for this information item came out of, I believe it's 2 meetings ago now, where we talked about some absorptions in this year's budget. And there was some question as to whether those positions, rather than being absorbed, could maybe be repurposed. And one of the things we discussed was that in 2013, when we underwent some of those cuts that we went, one of those spots that was cut was mental health supports. And what did that really look like for the district, and what does it look like now? So when those cuts occurred, for the reasons of the budget, perhaps at that point, even though our student population was higher, our mental health needs were perhaps lower than they actually are now. As we all know, since that time, in the nation, in the county, in the district, the mental health needs of students have increased somewhat dramatically. They're exposed to a great many more things, not the least of which is social media and social media impact on them 24/7, all the time. So what I looked at first, that first page you have, is our current, and to the best that we could find, the rest of the districts in the county's current mental health supports for students. Some of these numbers are based on a direct report to either myself or Mr. Matone about how many they had. Some of them I had to actually count off the website how many they had. So for instance, the Clarkstown number, their psychologist, may be a little high. I'm not really sure. We couldn't get confirmation of that. But then if you look at the second column, they don't have any social workers. So it is very much possible, looking at their website, that it was all psychologists. Our current staffing for mental health supports, psychologists, social workers, school guidance counselors, is 25.9 people. That is a ratio of 158 students to every one mental health professional. Now, there's not a really good number as to what that ratio should be. The only guidance given by New York State really refers to just the school guidance counselor number, and that's 250. But there is no number of how many psychologists you should have or social workers you should have. So those are our current numbers. You'll notice one column that we have a 0 in is in the school assistance counselor or prevention counselor. So if you turn to the next page, there's a chart I prepared that gives you an idea of what each of these different types of mental health supports for students, what they do. In my mind, the most important is the third section of the chart down where it tells you what their focus area is. That's the down and dirty, easy way to know what is this type of counselor going to do for our students. So if you look, the psychologists really focus on the learner, what's going on inside, either cognitively, developmentally, or emotionally, that's affecting the learner in our school system. And I should back up and say, all of our counselors, all of our mental health professionals work with the student in the idea of what do they need to be successful in school. So we're starting at that point. So again, the psychologist is really focusing on the learner and the individual needs of that learner and how the school can assist the student in that way. Our social workers are really working on, and their focus is the social system. So the student in relation to the other students, to the school as a whole, to the district as a whole. So that whole social system and social environment. The school and guidance counselors really work on the aspirations and goal setting for the student, that college and career readiness that begins now in New York State at the kindergarten level. So what does that student want to do in the future? How are we preparing them for a bright, wonderful future as adults, either in this community or the one that they move on to? That last column, that's that one that I said before we don't have currently in Suffern Central, and that's that student assistance counselor or prevention counselor as it's called in some districts. If you look, their specific focus is at-risk behaviors.
Excuse me, Dr. Scott, is it possible to put something up on the screen
I
so
don't
the
have it.
audience can see?
I don't
what
have
we're
it for the screen, but I
talking
can get that ready for next time if you want. There's no way I can get it on the screen right now.
So can we add it to board docs afterwards?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll share that. So the at-risk behavior column is the one we currently have no one whose specific focus is that, and it's something that many of the other districts in the county do have, and it's a need that we feel we could really fulfill in this district. So if you look at the last page that I gave you, that's a projection of what it would look like, our ratios, if Suffern Central added 2 student assistance counselors, one for the middle school, one for the high school. I've already had some preliminary discussions with those 2 buildings and their administration to be sure that it's something they felt they need, and it is. And also to add another 0.5 school or guidance counselor that would cover the elementary level. So as you know, starting this year, we have an elementary guidance counselor to fulfill our state mandates. We have 1 elementary guidance counselor who is beyond fabulous. We could not have picked a better person. He is currently going to each of the elementary schools 1 time each week. So he's spending 1 day in Montebello, 1 day in Viola, 1 day in Connor, 1 day in Sloatsburg, 1 day in Cherry Lane. We really would like to add another 0.5 to that so that we don't have to spread that person out so thin. I'm really worried about how effectively we're going to be providing elementary counseling if we're using just the 1 person. So again, when we looked at all of those positions that were absorbed and we started talking about, and I think it was you, Mr. McKenzie, that brought up, well, maybe we could have used those and repurposed them. My best feeling, and this is in conjunction with the other administrators, that to add 2.5 people in those mental health supports would be one of the best ways we could repurpose those positions. Any questions? Concerns? I spoke really fast, it's late at night.
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Donnelly.
Go ahead.
I was just asking, would a half a position be really worthwhile, or would it be better to get a full-time to assist at the elementary level? Or am I wrong in my thinking there?
I wouldn't say you're wrong in your thinking. It's such a new area, and we're really not sure exactly what that area and what that job is going to do. I'm a little concerned about adding a full new person, having 2 full people, and not really knowing what the role is. I think a 1.5 would fill our need right now, and then we can evaluate that again going forward for next year.
Can we get some feedback from Travis,
Definitely.
right? And see what he's thinking, how he's, how,
Right, I
Now, he's
can
running
ask
with
him
more-
specifically that
Exactly.
question. I know right now what I'm getting are emails that say, okay, so today I'm here, today I'm here, today I'm here, and today I'm here, and this building wants me to do this, and this building that wants me to do this, and I'm reading those emails saying, he's fabulous, but that sounds impossible. And that's from a mother of 6. So I know what it's like to be in a lot of spots at one time, and it still sounds like he's doing an awful lot. So I
so
would say.
maybe we can justify a position then.
We can look into that. I mean, this is the beginning stages. This is
Right,
an
exactly.
information item. We're at the
Exactly.
beginning stages of conversation. I'd love
We
to
don't
hear
travel.
more feedback.
Travis isn't stopping for coffee.
Right.
In that same vein, the SAC Prevention Counselor, I would think would be more in the middle school and the high school where there's more students than dispersed in the elementary school. So do you think that 2 is enough? Like, I would think 2 just being in the high school where they're coming up against things that are happening, and then in the middle school also. So I don't know, would it be 1 in each school? Would it be?
My current thought is 1 in each school. That's my current thought. On the middle school and the high school SAC, so 1 in each.
And do you think that's enough? Again,
We're
it's in the
starting,
same
we're
place.
starting at none. So it's a tremendous amount of difference. Lee, you can tell me what percentage that is. but I'm just saying, I think that right now, I would add 1 in each school.
I just want to make sure that, we're giving the best that we possibly can.
Right, I think we have to start small and work up on that, and again, see what their role would be and how they fit into the school environment that's there, and then move forward from that point. And it may very well be that we feel we need more than that, but I don't want us to bite off more than we can chew and just flood bodies. We need to know what those bodies are gonna do. We need to define the role before we add more than 1 to
I'm just not comfortable having 0.
Right, so 2 would be 200%? There we go. Any other questions?
Will you give us a report back after you've implemented the 2 people and basically tell us exactly what your mission was set out to be and was it accomplished, and should we do more in those different areas?
So that sounds like something I would be doing in June if we do fill these positions. If we do approve the positions and fill the positions, then definitely I will give you a report back at that point.
Thank you, Dr. Costello.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Costello.
Okay, board member comments? Do we have any board member comments tonight? Mr. McKenzie?
I just wanted to say thank you to both Dr. Castaldo and John Palmer for the presentations. You guys are both very thorough and informative. I appreciate your diligence with the work and the work you put into it. I appreciate that. And I also wanted to say congratulations to Ms. Jeffs. She's going to be our new middle school. I want to thank her for her service as the supervisor for middle school and special services. You provided a very personal touch to it, and thank you for all you've done.
Anybody else?
He stole all my words, so.
It will be done that much quicker. All right. I'm guessing nobody else has anything to add, so we'll move on. Public participation. This is public participation on any district-related matter. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and please do not mention the names of any district employees or students. And please state just your name and where you're from.
My name is Ted Aaron, I'm from Spring Valley, and basically, the comments or the presentation before is excellent, but there's one factor which I'd like to bring your attention to. One is that the K-Solar program involves the students. The program offers teacher workshops and solar-related STEM curricula in science, technology, engineering, and math. Basically, it incorporates concepts of renewable energy and climate change. So this is an educational factor which the K-Solar program provides. As far as the program is concerned, the K-Solar program, they provide engineers, structural engineers, they come down, talk to you, good people, and they decide whether this roof or that roof is appropriate, etc., etc. But the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, is that the K-Solar program provides an educational factor which is not included in the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I will be quick. I didn't want to talk about non-action items before. I actually had sent an email to the board, and I apologize, I sent it this evening, with 2 sample posters that I would actually like to ask for some funding for. So they are 2 18 by 24 posters. I talked to Mr. Fox, to Mr. Green, and they both support the idea. They'd like to see 3 to 4 in each of the buildings. The Supplemental School PTA is going to vote on the funding tomorrow, and I believe we will probably get that funding. However, the high school PTA, because we do reserve all the funds, the fundraising, 99% of the fundraising to the school clubs, we don't want to take away from that, so we do just a minimal amount, and we spend the majority of our money on the scholarships at the end of the year. So if the maximum cost that it would be for the high school would be $155. So I'm asking if there's any way that we can get that funded. I don't know if the school board is supported, if there's any way to fund it that way, or if there's something from the district. I really hate to ask this early in the year, ask Mr. Green to spend any of the funds he has for the building, not knowing what would be needed for the year. But you do have samples of the posters. Again, they both approved them. They both thought they are age appropriate. So it's the max of the 155. I'd like to negotiate a better price on the process of doing that.
Can you explain to the audience what the posters are about?
Sure. So they're actually I have pictures if anybody wants to see after the meeting. But they're anti-vaping. It basically says you have a smartphone, use your smartphone, and know what vaping really is. Know the dangers. So it's little things like that. But they're, and again, you guys have it via email, but I think it's a small cost and hopefully a big impact. We'd like to launch it in October with a presentation from Stephen Hill that will actually be to the parents as well as to the students. So it will be more of a campaign. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? Anybody else? Last call. Nice.
Very fast. My name is Linda Engler. I live in Hammer, and both of my kids are successful graduates of our school district. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but after hearing Dr. Castaldo's presentation about the mental health support, so I'm a child psychologist and I'm not mom, so I just wanted to say thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and I'm not a school psychologist, I'm a private psychologist, and we're just seeing such an increase in anxiety and depression and stress in the kids that we're seeing, and all the way up through the college years. So the more that you can do as a school district when the kids are younger, I think that's great. The guidance counselors in the elementary schools is just amazing. It's fabulous. And the more you can put into that age range is wonderful. And the school assistance counselors is so important because as we have kids and they have more anxiety, depression, and stress, they're self-medicating more with substances. And so having those assistance counselors at the middle school, and it's happening at the middle school too. So having it at the middle school and the high school is really consistent. So thank you.
Thank you.
Really not I don't know, sort of an action item. Last meeting you spoke about the contingency fund, that we had a reserve with a substantial amount of money in it, and there were those that wanted to utilize that fund against the taxes, reducing the taxes, which I can understand is great, but a few years back, we had a problem where we were running short on money, running towards a higher deficit. And I do believe they decided, the board members then, to keep a fund aside. So if there was some kind of unprecedented emergency, we'd have that money there to fall back on. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware of what's happening, but we've lost SEMA Guiding, Novartis, the income from them. The last Suffern Village Board meeting, one of our big taxpayers, Avon, is looking to sell out. We don't know what our tax revenue will be when they're gone. And I think we need to keep our eyes open and a little tight rein on that money until we're sure we're going to have enough to carry through if we experience a sudden loss. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We will close this portion of the meeting. Closing. Acting Superintendent comments?
First, I'd like to thank Ms. Palma and Dr. Cristaldo for the information tonight, and congratulations on Ms. Jess. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie, for saying all those things. So I sent a letter out yesterday. A few people commented, maybe just a few, a few hundred. I actually only got 4 emails, but there were many comments, and 2 really it focused around 2 issues. So I wanted to just take a minute to address those issues. So the letter I sent yesterday was about the changes to the wellness policy that the board had approved last spring. And primarily, the change was around celebrations, and the revised policy states that there's no food or beverages during classroom celebrations or parties. So I sent that letter early in the year before we had the Meet the Teacher nights, so that to support the schools in sending that message out to our parents. And so that decision by the board last June was not made lightly. It's been discussed in the School Health Advisory Committee, the SHAC committee, for a long time. And through the SHAC committee, the issues particularly around allergies and obesity were the primary issues. That was then presented to the board, and the board voted unanimously to pass the change in policy. We know that this may be a shift for some of the families, but it was adopted upon careful consideration of all involved. I will say, I've been a Viola parent for 11 years, and Viola has had this policy in effect the entire 11 years that my children have attended. My children love birthday parties. They have tremendous, detailed memories of celebrating their friends' birthdays in various years when so-and-so's mom or dad came in 2nd grade and we played this game or we did this activity. They have no experience with cupcakes in school, but they have incredibly vivid, detailed memories of the celebrations of their kids' birthdays. So I'm confident that all of our families can celebrate birthdays at school without food in a memorable, special way for their children. We're also aware that these changes have brought up a lot of questions about the food we offer in the cafeteria. While everything we serve in the cafeteria meets the federal and state guidelines and falls under this policy, we do believe that the questions and concerns brought forth by the community have merit, and we will be looking more closely at the options available to students. We'll also be sharing with parents the ways in which parents can monitor their children's accounts and put restrictions on those accounts. So we'll be sharing that, and we'll have a step-by-step guide for that in the next week. So I understand this is a change in policy. It is incredibly well-intentioned. It was not, it wasn't done haphazardly. It's a well-thought-out process. And I think it's a first step in all of us working together to make sure we're providing a healthy way of life for our students.
Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn. Ms. Reamer? Second? Good night. Give an hour. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Meeting is adjourned. And so the district clerk, the time is 9:40.
So about the posters and stuff, you go to and there she actually has those posters here. Because I do all the other side, I'm on the board of. So we get all of our, we like